To begin with, we have to run the Bloons application. We get the application path by right-clicking the application in the taskbar, right-clicking the icon in the menu and selecting Properties. Copy the file path from the location field. Next, we have to wait for an image. This image is the Start button on the menu when we open up Bloons. After that, we move the mouse to the button and click it. Once in the game's menu, we have to click the play button. This is a little bit tricky because there are waves in the background, so we may have to play around with the tolerance. I had a little bit of trouble with actually clicking on the button, so I have to add an offset to where I click. As you can see, image recognition is not exactly accurate, and I want to avoid using it if possible. For some reason I had better luck when I changed, so I'm only searching for images on the foreground window. I think this might have something to do with having two screens, but I'm not sure. At this point I'm selecting the hero to play with. I have to take into account that you might be using the skin on the hero, so you have two icons. It's also possible that you already selected that hero, so I have to actually take 4 pictures. In case you haven't selected Sauda, I make the program select her. Here I made a mistake of copying an action and not picking a new one. So you can see here that I kept the offset from when I click on the button, and that's going to cause trouble later on. I realized I have to add a wait to click on the back button after selecting the hero, because if I do it instantly, it's not going to work. And this is the point where I realized my mistake and I correct it. At this point I'm ready to select the map, which was a lot easier than the rest of the flow. Since this flow is just a proof of concept, I'm going to pick an easy map on easy. The point is more that you can make the Power Automate flow play the game, not to have it play it well. I'm using keyboard shortcuts to place my towers, since that was a lot easier than using image recognition, especially since I hate image recognition. I had a lot of difficulty with figuring out how to place the towers. I could have used move the mouse to X and Y coordinates, and I would do that if I had to make the flow from scratch. Using XY coordinates wouldn't be a problem since I'm only using this flow on my own computer. So I don't have to take into account that people might use different monitors and screen resolutions. I played around with how to actually click the part of the image where I want to place the tower. I needed to make the image big enough to recognize it, but I also can't place a tower on the track. While editing, I realize I'm doing some silly things right now. Instead of simply sending a mouse click to click on the tower after placing it, I'm trying to find the actual image of the tower on the screen. So this is a little bit of a double work. I'm using the shortcut keys on my keyboard to upgrade my Dart Monkey. This works since I have enough money to begin with. Right now I can't afford to buy a bomb shooter, so I add a wait for images action to wait until I can see the bomb shooter with the blue outline, which means I can afford it. Once I have enough money, I'll use the shortcut to place a bomb shooter, and then I'll use a move mouse to image again to figure out where to place it. I tried to use the scroll wheel in order to check if I could afford a super monkey, because if I can do that, I know I can afford the upgrades to the bomb shooter. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this to work, so I had to use a lot of image recognition. I found I had to play a lot around with the tolerance for the image recognition. This makes it more likely to find the image, but you also run the risk of clicking a wrong thing, because there might be multiple positions in the game where two images look like each other, and then you end up placing a tower on the wrong place. This is a big problem if you have something like an actual work-related task, like clicking a button in SAP, and you end up clicking the wrong thing. I sped up the portion where I simply wait until I can afford the bomb shooter upgrade and then actually buy it, because it's just the same two actions. I'm using the tab keys to change the targeting of my bomb shooter, so I'll hit the Moab later on. At this point I beat the game while I was playing it and recording the steps. So at this point I'm simply adding the last actions, which is to wait until I can find the image of the victory screen. Once I can see that image, I'll find the next button and click it. I made a lot of test runs that I cut out because this video is already too long. I had to play around a lot with the tolerance of the image recognition, because it wasn't exactly accurate. It couldn't find the images, so I had to do a lot of changes. But eventually I got one run where it worked, and I actually repeated it again and it worked, so it works at least 2 times.